Michael in Ohio, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. I loved your movie that you just made.
Thank you.
Follow the Republic. And I just got something to say about the shooting yesterday with Hassan. This guy's a military guy. He's a major. He's a doctor. And the only photo that they have of him is some black and white photo where he looks like some psycho. That just seems kind of weird, doesn't it?
And then they conveniently have him in his Muslim garb. Look, the whole thing, if you go over it, it stinks to high heaven. He's making these anti-war statements. He's making these statements reportedly against the political system. I mean, if a private does that, they drum them out of the military in 10 seconds. But he reportedly said all this, and they said, no, you're going to Iraq. And then they lied and said he was dead for 6 hours, and then people are reporting other shooters, and then he's a psychiatrist. I mean, this thing's got mind control or patsy written all over it.
I was looking at all the different news sites, CNN, Fox, everyone, and the only photo they have is some black and white photo of this guy, a couple photos, and then that video. And, I mean, if it's a major, you would expect him to, have at least one photo where it's decorated in uniform or something. And they got some weird photo out there, which it just seems weird, that's all.
Well, it's a mess. It is certainly a mess. And the globalists love divide and conquer, and we're a nation of all these different groups and religions and people. And in the name of multiculturalism, they actually remind us of our differences and hype it up to create more division. It's the perfect cover story. There's the establishment saying, oh, the Tea Parties yesterday, they were out protesting the health care bill because they're racist. That's racist to inject the term racism into it. That is divide and conquer. We have time later. I'll play these clips of Matthews and Oberman. Just disgusting. They know exactly what they're doing. And now with the Afghan war faltering and the citizens not wanting the war and all this news coming out, this conveniently happens. But, I mean, he could be a crazy person who was a Muslim wacko. You got wackos from all groups. He could just be mentally ill. Psychiatrists have the highest statistics, as I've said, of being mentally ill and on drugs. Or he could be mind control. Mind control exists. That is real. I talked about it last hour, or hour before last. And we'll continue to take your phone calls. Nick, Jeff, Randy, Arnold, many others. 1-800-259-9231. It's Friday, the 6th day of November, 2009. Bob Chapman with his weekly report on the economy. Straight ahead. Okay, going to Bob Chapman, former military intelligence, ran the biggest newsletter, financial newsletter out there for a long time, retired, came back with internationalforecaster.com, made a lot of just amazing predictions. He said many, many months ago that the stock market would go back up, gold would explode. He predicted that in the fall. I don't want to go back over all his predictions here. We've done that before. We just need to pay attention to what he's saying now. And I want to start going to your phone calls for those that are holding at the bottom of the hour, specifically questions for Bob Chapman. But I know some of the callers are already holding, so you can bring up other issues. He'll be able to comment on that. But after we go through this raft of calls, if you're calling in, just questions for Bob Chapman on the economy and the balance of the hour that we have. 1-800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us on air. Bob Chapman, good to have you here with us.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here again.
Gold is above $1,102.
Now, somewhere up in that area, it's been trading back and forth over 1,100, exactly as we predicted. And you know what's surprising about this, and it's very disappointing to me. Analysts, economists, newsletter writers, they poll them. Hurlbut has a service where they poll them. And 96% of them said that gold was going to go back down again. I mean, you talk about a massive egg in your face. I don't know what these people are thinking about. They're not reading the tea leaves right. But anyway, we're happy we were right. Our subscribers, our listeners, they're making money, and so that's what it's all about. But more than that, they're protecting themselves.
But, Bob, you've made this point many times. Most of those analysts aren't stupid. They're paid and put on national television and given syndicated columns to lie to people.
Well, that's true. And then you have the factor of acceptability. A lot of these writers will know what's going on, but they won't talk about the very hard facts. They'll color them. They'll say, well, maybe the people at the SEC or the CFTC will pursue the fact that the market is being manipulated, or it's just full of excuses. And that draws them into the middle, so to speak, so they're not thought ill of within their profession. I get a different viewpoint. I don't care what anybody thinks. I hope that I'm right, and I say what I say, and I've been pretty successful at it, and I hope it continues that way. But nothing stands in my way, and I think less of them for that.
Well, you tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may, and 95% of the time you're accurate. So am I, and that's why we're so successful at reaching people. But it's kind of sad. I mean, it's like telling somebody you're going to die of cancer, and now we're dying of cancer. As a country, the republic is in bad shape. If we don't remove these criminals immediately, it's over. But it may be even too far gone for that. We just need to remove them so it doesn't get 100 times worse. Bob, what happened with the IMF dumping all this gold in the market? Ted Anderson, Ron Paul, in fact, I'm going to play that clip later of Ron Paul, said that clearly the IMF and World Bank came in and tried to drive down gold, and that for the first time in modern history, their attempt to drive it down failed and blew up in their face. And this is a major sea change for the dollar, for the markets, for gold. A, do you concur with Ron Paul and Ted Anderson? And B, what does this mean in the short term?
I agree. It's a seminal moment, and we've just passed it. I said there would be an untoward event, and that was it. And the only question I have about that is that I suspect there's a possibility that the Indians didn't buy that gold. I think there's a possibility that that gold could have been sold some time ago. And what they were effectively doing was completing the transaction by covering a short position. In other words, they had sold, and they would have somebody ostensibly buy it back when, in fact, they weren't. Now, India was one of the signatories to the IMF in 1947, and they chose a number of countries to hold gold, and India was one of them. And perhaps it's possible that the gold that India held may have been sold previously, and India was just saying, well, we're buying it, and that would have completed the transactions because essentially they were sellers on behalf of the IMF before. So that's possible. The other thing is maybe they did, in fact, buy the gold. I don't know which, but I do know one thing. They're both good. And the Chinese say that we can get gold cheaper by buying gold produced in the country. And they're right. They're a big gold producer, but they have to wait for it to be harvested and brought in. And so I think Chinese are going to line up there. And if there is gold for sale in reality,
all right,
I
Bob,
think they'll be
go ahead.
standing there to buy.
Okay. Stay there. Bob Chapman's our guest. We're going to continue to talk about these joblessness numbers, record high, and that's even Cook numbers. We're going to talk about where gold's going from here and your phone calls.